Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP level 100 NAGAKIBA Katana build guide in Elden Ring. So this weapon's really nice because it has a lot of reach to it, and it deals bleed buildup innately, so we can use that to give us a lot of damage. Now, I'll be going through the full leveling guide. If you're not level 100, I'll be talking about what stats to prioritize, but if you're at level 100, we're going to want to have at least 50 vigor. Now we have 18 strength. This allows us to equip the NAGAKIBA. I got my mind at 18. You can go a little lower with that and put your endurance up a little bit higher. I found that 28 worked well because we're able to get 56 poise minimum with a medium roll. So you want to be able to get at least 51 poise minimum. Of 56 is ideal because it's going to allow you to resist light attacks from enemies. 24 dexterity, so I put the rest of the points into dexterity. And I went with 15 faith and 16 arcane. The arcane is going to increase our bleed scaling if we change the scaling on the weapon. But it also will give us the ability to cast a few different incantations. That's going to help a lot with this. So I went with the Keen NAGAKIBA with double slash. I went with the Keen Yuji Katana with seppuku. And I went with the Dragon Communion Seal. As you level up past 100, put more points into your dexterity. You could also put points into arcane and switch these over to bleed. So there's two options you got there. Now for equipment, the white mask will give us increased bleed or increased damage after we trigger bleed. Stacked with the Lord of Blood's exaltation, this can actually give us a ton of damage, and we can trigger bleed before we even start combat with something like seppuku. And also we got the swarm of flies. My head is covering it, but I'll show you that there. I also went with the rod and winged sword insignia, but you can go with like the winged sword insignia or Millicent's prosthesis, just for increased damage, or even like the ritual sword talisman. And then I went with the shard of Alexander to boost our weapon damage. So this could also be swapped out for anything that you find works best for your build. Even like the green turtle talisman works really well too, or even more health. So as for our skills that we want to be using, so I got the Dragon Communion Seal here. It does have only 10 Faith, 10 Arcane requirements, and it'll boost our Dragon Communion incantations. So that allows us to use Rotten Breath, which is nice, because if you summon your Mimic with this in the offhand, they're going to spam Rotten Breath and apply Scarlet Rot to the boss, which is really nice. But we typically want to start with two things. We want to start with our Blood Flame Blade here. It's going to buff our weapon and give it a bit more damage. And then we also want to use Flame Grant Me Strength. This will give us an increased further damage boost and increase the damage that we're dealing with fire. And then we're going to two-hand our Yuji Katana. I guess that removes the fire damage, but we'll trigger the blood loss there. So that's going to give us the increased damage. Unfortunately, I guess you can't use Blood Flame Blade in that at the same time, but that triggers our blood loss. So now we're going to be doing like a ton of damage. We can two-shot the Albanarix. Usually you'd be able to do this at like a level 150 build, but we're doing it pretty early. And the double slash is going to be a really good option for damage for us, so I'd recommend focusing on that for your damage as much as possible, because 2 taps of that will basically destroy any basic mob. But we got options, like we can also use Swarm of Flies here, so this will give us the blood loss build-up that we're looking for, and then we can also, I ran out of FP there, but we could use the Blood Flame Blade now, and the nice part about that is we got our bleed proc. Basically, we want to be triggering bleed as much as possible, so the Swarm of Flies is a great way to do that. Unfortunately, Flame Grant Me Strength doesn't last very long, so our typical way of doing it would be Blood Flame Blade, do Blood Flame Blade, add Flame Grant Me Strength, and then Swarm of Flies to start combat, and then you can just run in with your weapon there, and you typically are going to destroy most things. With L1, you can do that cool power stance attack there, but don't be afraid to go with this attack here. The double slash works really well. I'll be going over a few other Ashes of War that we can use with this build, but the double slash just makes this like Rivers of Blood almost, but with a much longer reach. So that final attack in the combo deals increased damage, which is really nice. But yeah, this will shred through pretty much any enemy. And then you can also go with the charge attacks, because they do a pretty good amount of posture damage as well. Another thing we can go with is jump attacks. That's another really nice build, but I would probably recommend going with a twin blade build if you want to be going for that. And I got a video on my channel if you want to be running with one of those builds. But some other Ashes of War that work well in the NAGAKIBA. So double slash and sword dance are two that are really nice. Repeating thrust is good for closing the distance against enemies. And I'm also a fan of spinning slash, because this can actually really work well for, I find it's good posture damage. So we can go with the spinning slash, I'll show you that there, but there's a couple other Ashes of War that I'll be showing off too. So the nice part about spinning slash is it has a huge area of effect, and you can follow it up with another attack there. So you can continue to press the L2 for more spinning slashes, which is nice, because you can just continue to go with this attack here to hit a huge area, which is awesome because area of effect attacks are very useful for situations like this because you're going to be applying bleed to everyone really quickly. So yeah, the Blood Flame Blade is nice, but don't be afraid. You can also use the seppuku there for a little bit extra damage in your offhand weapon. If you find that you use the offhand weapon often, that's not a bad way about going about it. But some other Ashes of War that work really well. I'm a big fan of Bloodhound Step. If you want a little bit extra survivability, this gives you more invincibility frames for dodging. I really like that. Raptor's Miss is okay too, but I think that the best one is going with something like, I mean, even Glintblade Phalanx is nice for defensive purposes. This has a lot of posture damage. But I'm personally a fan of Flame of the Redmanes 1. If you get the DLC, the Flame Spear is really good too because it'll apply fire to your weapon. But I think that the best option for this is actually the Bloody Slash. So I'll put this on with a bleed infusement. It can give you double the bleed buildup. It does cut the damage down a little bit, but we're going from 20... We're not losing a whole lot of damage, so this can actually be a really nice benefit to put this on here. But the Bloody Slash is a nice... It's got a bit of range to it, so you can go with that there and see we were able to take out 2 enemies. The only unfortunate side effect of this is it does hurt your character, so that is one thing you got to watch out for, is you will hurt yourself with this attack, but the damage is not that high, so that is a nice thing about it. But we got a really good way to build up the bleed buildup with this, so we were able to triggered it on both of them there. So the bleed buildup on this thing is quite nice. Even with the low stats that we have, it's still quite effective. So there it is. That is a NAGAKIBA build guide in Elden Ring at level 100. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. I have some other build guides for Elden Ring, so you can check those out as well. And thank you so much for watching.